Coming up on this episode, we're visiting Marshmallow Mountain with M.A. Wardell and A.J. Truman.
Welcome to episode 466 of the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for avid readers and passionate fans of queer romance fiction. I'm Will, and with me here, as always, is my co-host and husband, Jeff.
Hello, Rainbow Romance Reader. It is great to have you here for another episode of the show. And as always, this podcast is brought to you in part by our remarkable community on Patreon. If you'd like more information about what we offer to patrons, including the opportunity to ask questions to our guests, go over to patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast.
Now, I think it's worth mentioning that this isn't just any episode. This one marks the show's 9th anniversary. It was on November 2nd, 2015, that the first 4 episodes of the Big Gay Fiction Podcast debuted.
And what an amazing 9 years it's been, too. Since we started back in 2015, we've produced more than 500 episodes. Now, it's true that this one is numbered 466, but there are many episodes in our backlist that don't have numbers, such as some of the book club episodes, our 2020 Pride Month programming, and 2021's Big Gay Fiction Fest Holiday Edition. Not to mention bonus episodes that we created for our Patreon community. It's really difficult to get an exact number for all of it, but it is more than 500 episodes.
We've also welcomed more than 350 guests to the show. Of course, many of those guests were authors, but we've also had narrators and filmmakers, artists, dancers, and bookstore owners, journalists, podcasters, reviewers, and queer activists. And who has been on the show the most? You may remember recently that TJ Klune made his 10th appearance on the show earlier this year. And narrator Joel Leslie was also here a few episodes back, making his 8th appearance.
And out of all of these episodes, which would have been the most popular? Well, here's the top 5. Number 5 is TJ Klune and his appearance in episode 328 from August of 2021, when he was here talking about Flashfire and Under the Whispering Door. Number 4 is Alice Oseman, when she was here in episode 420, talking about Solitaire and Heartstopper. For number 3, we talked hockey romance with Rachel Reed in episode 329, also from August of 21. Something about August of 21 was a thing for us back there.
It was a magical time.
TJ's back on the list for the number 2 slot when he talked about The House in the Cerulean Sea in episode 232 from March of 2020. And the number 1 episode ever, Casey McQuiston from episode 187, when they were here to talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue, just as that book hit the stores in May of 2019.
Now, a few other notable moments we've had since our inception include making Oprah's list of 26 of the best book podcasts to listen to when you're not reading, making it onto Good Morning America's virtual Pride Roundup in June of 2020, as they mentioned our batch of episodes to help celebrate Pride in the midst of the pandemic. And also, just a couple of weeks ago, we sent out the 100th edition of our newsletter, the Rainbow Romance Reader Report.
And we want to thank all of you, whether you've been here with us since the beginning, just joined us for the first time in this episode, or anywhere in between, for being here with us as we spotlight queer romance and queer storytelling. And a very special thanks to our Patreon community who helped make all this possible, especially helping us make transcripts for the episodes. We started our Patreon in January of 2017, and I would like to take just a moment to recognize the community members who've been here with us since then. Regency Fan 93, Laura, David, and George. Thank you for being with us for 83 consecutive months. That's just wow.
So now that we've tooted our own horn for a bit, let's get down to business and let's talk about some of the books and movies that we've been enjoying recently. And I'm really excited to tell you about a recent movie Jeff and I watched. It's called Glitter and Doom. It's a magical little indie musical featuring the songs of the Indigo Girls. And based on that title, I bet you didn't expect me to say that, did you?
I couldn't believe it when you put the movie in front of me for the trailer.
So the movie is about 2 young guys, the title essentially describing our main characters. One is a rich kid who likes to party and has decided that his calling in life is to be a circus clown. The other is a struggling musician whose songs are just a little too angsty for anyone to truly be interested in. They meet one night at a club, kicking off a summer romance filled with wonderful montages and camping trips where they bare their souls to one another, all to the tune of various songs from the Indigo Girls catalog. A lot of the dialogue is song lyrics as well, which, in addition to the colorful visuals, give this movie a dreamy, magical quality, and it's just so charming and quirky and unique. The movie was directed by Tom Gustafson, who many years ago made another queer musical, Were the World Mine, which is about a prep school production of A Midsummer Night's Dream where the love lives of the boys get just as magically messy as the Shakespearean characters they're playing. Both movies share, I'd say, a similar DNA, magical realism mixed with queer romance and indie music. That should kind of give you an idea of this movie would be something you're into. In Glitter and Doom, our lovers must figure out what exactly their relationship means as one of them prepares to leave and go to circus school in Paris. Now, honestly, the plot isn't the most important thing. It's really about the music and the vibes and the great performances by the two leads, Alex Diaz and Alan Kamish. Both have amazing voices and have wonderful chemistry together. Each of their mothers are also part of the story, and they're played by Ming-Na Wen and Missy Pyle, who's a name you might not recognize, but she's one of those character actors who's been in absolutely everything and whose face you will probably recognize. We saw her live at an off-Broadway show a long, long time ago, and she is just so damn talented. She's terrific in this movie, and she deserves to be a huge star, frankly.
I didn't know what to expect when you put this in front of me, but just watching the trailer, I'm like, yeah, we need to watch that, and we need to watch it right now. You hit it so perfectly. It's just magical, and it's dreamy, and the songs are so good. Like, I haven't listened to Indigo Girls in a long time. It's not that I'm not a fan, but it's just not in my regular list. But I've immediately gone and bought the soundtrack for this movie and have played it a couple times since we watched it because the music is so good and these guys sing it so well. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm glad you highlighted Missy Pyle because not only is she a great performer in this film, but she gets to sing, which she doesn't always get to do in the movies that she's in. But she got a couple killer song moments in here too, which I was really thrilled about. And oh boy, this movie is loaded with cameos from people, including the Indigo Girls, who do have a bit of the storyline going on in here too. I loved every single moment of this. I suspect I'll be watching it again soon because I just loved it so darn much.
Yeah, the whole movie, it's magical from start to finish. It is like a colorful, extended indie music video. It's vibey and romantic, and we think it's something genuinely worth searching out. You can find Glitter and Doom on various streaming platforms. We watched it on Amazon Prime Video.
And now I'm going to take care of the book side of things, as I have a couple books to tell you about as well. First up, I want to tell you about I'll Have What He's Having, which is the latest from Adib Khorram, and it's actually his first adult romance after writing many YA books, including the Breakup Lists, which he was actually on the show back in episode 452 talking to us about, and where he also gave us a little preview of I'll Have What He's Having. I really enjoyed this book, I have to tell you. It ended up really delighting me in this romance between Farzan and David. Poor Farzan, he is just honestly a little bit of a mess. His love life is not good. He's been through a few failed relationships here and there. He's unsatisfied with his job prospects. He's currently a substitute teacher, but of course that's not really paying a lot of money, and it doesn't offer a lot of stability. He's been kind of drifting a little bit with his job prospects anyway. One night he ends up going to a wine bar that he's been wanting to try. And as he's coming in to get the seat, he's having a hard time with the loudness of the restaurant. He gives up having the host try to understand that he's saying Farzan, and he gives what he calls his white person name as Frank Allen. Now, it turns out that Frank Allen happens to be one of the most influential food critics in Kansas City. And of course, once that name is given, it sets a flurry in the wine bar because it's a relatively new business trying to make sure he has the best night. And it's David who really starts to make sure that Farzan's being taken care of because David is the sommelier, so he wants to make sure that Frank has a great evening and really gets to see the wine bar at its best. So we start off with a little bit of miscommunication here on who's who. They get super cute and super flirty, and it's really awesome. And as you might expect, they do kind of end up getting together at the end of the evening and going off and having a little bit of a fling, which is fun. And they're flirty and they get along. Their chemistry is off the charts from the very beginning. It really just crackled right off the page, and I was so there for it. But, you see, we do have this miscommunication that's already happened, which I have to say I was very pleased and this isn't much of a spoiler because of how early it happens, they cleared that up relatively quickly. So that doesn't become the thing that's hanging over them for the entire book, that eventually it's going to have to come out that Farzan is not who David thinks he is. So it was great to get that out of the way, and I appreciate that Adib did that. But then as they start to come together as David and Farzan, there's a lot going on that they have to navigate. David's actually on a short time clock. He's working on his Master Sommelier certification, and when he gets that, he plans to go to LA or to some other bigger market to really stake his claim to fame and fortune. Whereas Farzan honestly doesn't know what he's going to do. He gets his chance, though, when he finds out that his parents, who run another restaurant in Kansas City, are going to retire, and they have their eye on selling the restaurant because the rest of their children are actually in other already established careers. Farzan, however, loves to cook, loves the restaurant, and wants to make the restaurant work. But he's terrified because he's never done anything like that, and he's really worried that he's going to mess up his family's legacy if he takes it over. How these two end up helping each other is so amazing. Farzan helps David with studying for his big test. David helps Farzan understand, what he kind of needs to do to be able to take over the business, and helps him navigate some of that stuff because he's got experience in running restaurants. How these two really just support each other and try to help each other and make each other's lives better, even while there's kind of that background thing of that David is going to leave at some point, which of course we all know this is a romance, so that's really not going to happen. They just have to figure that out amongst themselves. And like I said, their chemistry is so good. For a while, they try to pretend like they're doing a friends with benefits thing as they help each other out with their respective life tasks. But it's so clear to the reader and to everyone around them that is simply not really the case, that they're actually developing the feels for each other. I really love how Adib navigated with these two characters, getting them to their HEA. It was so ridiculously satisfying. It's been a really great year reading Adib books. I loved the breakup lists back in the spring. Now we've got I'll Have What He's Having here in the fall. I highly recommend you pick up both books if you don't have them already. I think you will really just absolutely adore I'll Have What He's Having, because it is a really excellent romance focused on two people who just have to get out of their own way, essentially, to be able to come together for a really beautiful HEA. And of course, I have to talk a little bit about the book that we're about to hear about in the interview. Marshmallow Mountain by M.A. Wardell and A.J. Truman was really such a treat. Now, I've loved A.J.'s writing in his solo work. I've loved M.A.'s work in their solo work. But bringing these two together was just really the match made in heaven. Their particular writing styles of humor and warmth, and what M.A. Wardell or Matt brings into a book for the spicy level, worked so well here. And this is one of the most forced proximity books. It's essentially the forciest forced proximity book ever, because they really spend the majority of the book snowed in this little cabin. So what we've got here is Marshall and Marshall, or as they're nicknamed, Marsh and Data, coming back to a cabin that they bought years ago. They need to pack it up and get ready to sell it because these two have broken up. And so they've come up for the weekend to clean it out and be able to sell it. But, of course, there's a big snowstorm that happens, and they end up stuck up here in the cabin. This small cabin, they can't really get away from each other in the cabin. And there's so much just delicious friction between them as they arrive here for the weekend. In a lot of ways, the breakup kind of came out of nowhere for Data. And we unpack over the course of the weekend exactly how they got to where they are in terms of having broken up, but really also rediscovering all the ways that they were so good together. You put together the second chance romance of this story plus that forced proximity, and it ticked so many boxes for me. I love it when nice guys are sitting on the page talking. That's long documented in the history of the show. And that's essentially what this book is these two guys talking a lot, figuring out where they went wrong, figuring out, more importantly, the places that they were so right for each other. It's really wonderful watching these two come back together through the course of the story. And the way that, even in the early parts of the book, where there is all the friction, that they do these little things that show a deep down caring for each other that they just haven't lost. AJ and Matt do such a wonderful job of this book. I can't stress that enough. It was really a delight to read. I'm so glad, as you'll hear in the interview, that this is not a one-off book for them, that there's actually a series here now that will be continuing, because the mix that these two have of the various components that they each bring to the writing is so good. And of course, few people do spice as well as Matt does, and the chemistry and the spice factor between these two is so amazing. And at the same time, some of the very tender moments as they're rediscovering the things in this cabin that they've accumulated over their history together and the things that those mean to them, hearing them talk about that and reliving some of those moments was the tenderest of tender. This book is so good as it pulls all the emotional strings. I really enjoyed it so much. And now let's just get into the interview with Matt and AJ, and you're going to hear so much more about this amazing book. These guys have been on the show before. Matt was here last year in episode 441 talking about his Teachers in Love series, specifically Mistletoe and Mishigas for last year's holiday season. And AJ was here way back in August of 2016, episode 46. Within the first year of the show, he was here.
Ooh, that's an ancient callback, isn't it?
He's an OG. And we were discussing his Bowerton University series back then. If you've heard those interviews, you know these two are very entertaining, and putting them together was absolutely a blast. I almost didn't need to talk at all because they could just handle the whole thing themselves. We're going to find out how they came together to collaborate, what it was like to write Marshmallow Mountain, and we're going to get some hints about the next book in the series, too. AJ and Matt, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you both back and here together. I think this is going to be such a fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Marshmallow Mountain. I absolutely devoured that book, loved it to pieces. But before we get there talking about that, I'd like to know what brought you two together to co-write. How did that get to happen?
I guess I'll start since I probably initiated a relationship. So Riley Hart posted about me on her social media. She did at the time was doing like an Own Voices author showcase. So she showcased me, and that's how Matt found out about me. And then maybe he started following me, or maybe I forget. But somehow like that got you on my radar. So then I saw you, I was like, oh, it's another guy writing gay romance,
another cute guy, a cute guy,
another cute guy, another Jewish looking guy like myself, writing gay romance. Oh, interesting. So I, as the kids say, I slid into your DMs, and it just went from there. And then we just started talking and chatting. We had some Zooms, just chatting, and then you were like, okay, so here's the plan. I want us to both leave our husbands, become the next Christina Lauren, run away together, and write lots of books.
I forgot I said that, but I did. I totally did say that, even to the point where I was thinking of what would our ship name be? What would I can't remember what we came up with, but yeah, I did say that. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I totally said that. P.S. It's not. I was kidding. Okay, I was kidding.
Yeah. Note to listeners: we did not leave our husbands.
But spoiler alert: I did fall a little bit in love with AJ during writing the book. So anyway, yes, he slid into my DMs and was very, nice to me and said nice things. And it's, when you're writing, it's very solo, you're just kind of on your own, and it's hard to connect with other people, you kind of do on social media, but it's not really the same. And so we started chatting, and then I think it was me that just said, can we just get on a Zoom and talk about, it started with us talking about a lot of business things. We were talking about covers, and I don't remember everything. He probably does, because he remembers that I said that Christina Lauren thing. And then because what you asked was like, why did we write a book together? And so AJ has written plus size characters before in his books, and I had written a one book that has a plus size character, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about the representation and how, you know, all that. And I think it was me, but AJ will correct me because he always does if I'm wrong. I think I said, "Oh my gosh, like, why isn't there a book where both main characters are plus size?" Because it's typically one, like in both the books that we've written, you know, you've got like a bigger guy and then a not bigger guy. I was like, why can't they both be big? Like, why can't we have two teddy bears like doing it? And then one of us said, we should write that book. And I can't remember if it was me or him. I think I say it was me when I tell the story about now that AJ's here. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you did make that initial push.
Okay. And AJ was like, I'm not writing a book with you. He didn't he didn't want to do it. You didn't at first.
Yeah. It's true. Well, the thing is, like, you know, I think we've all heard stories of like authors saying like, oh, let's co-write, or let's do, like, I think the popular thing right now is like doing like a series of like 8 authors do like a connected series. And like I just heard a lot of horror stories about that not working out between authors. So I'm always a little hesitant because, you know, I only have so much time to write so many books. So I'm like, well, I'm afraid of like going down that path with Matt. Like, what if this doesn't work out? Then like we've like spent all this time together working on this book that like doesn't come to fruition. Then like we've lost all that time. So I was definitely nervous, as is typical for me. But but then like the more we kept like talking and talking about like maybe what it would be. Like I had this idea for a book about, oh, what if there's like, you know, 2 ex-boyfriends who have to like they co-own like a house or a cabin, they have to like sell it, you know, since their relationship is over. And then it's like from that nugget, it just kind of like grew. And I remember one thing that we did joke that we did talk about that we did not wind up in the book is, you know, we were joking like, oh, we should do like, you know, like a Hanukkah set story. It's like the story of Hanukkah.
I
The
forgot
story of
about
Hanukkah.
that.
Yeah, in the story of Hanukkah, for all the Gentiles out there, there's like only enough oil to last for one night of Hanukkah, but the miracle is that the oil lasts to light the menorah 8 nights. That's like what we're celebrating. I'm like, what if these guys only have enough lube for like one session of intercourse, but surprise, they have enough to last for 8 sessions of intercourse. And so like we just kind of like that's like we just laughed about that, and then from there I'm like, okay, like yeah, let's give this a shot. And like just getting to know Matt more and like reading his books, I was like, well, he's obviously a really good writer. So, you know,
Oh,
so I was like, yeah, let's do this. And the rest is history. The rest is marshmallows.
How was the collaboration? Because even once you decide to do it, there's, you know, do your processes mesh together? Do the writing styles end up and mesh together? Like, how was that for you? Because this is for both of you the first time of co-writing.
Yeah.
It was in
Well,
so for me, so AJ and I are like, we have become really good friends, but we're different. Like, you know, like I always joke, you know, he's the grumpy and I'm the sunshine. I always forget with the odd couple, which one is like the uptight one? Felix? I always
Yeah.
get them confused. I never
yeah.
really saw it, but I know that I know of it. So he's like the Felix and I'm the Oscar, if that's, you know, so like we're like kind of opposite. So as we started doing it, I was like, there was definitely the first week or two was a little, I won't say bumpy, like it wasn't like horrible or anything like that. But what I realized for me, and I think for us, writing a book with someone is very intimate and it's very like you're letting somebody into part of your process that most people never see. I mean, even when most authors write a book, even if they have, you know, alpha readers and beta readers, that doesn't happen for most people. Sometimes I've seen some authors say that they have people reading like chapters as they write them, but I've never done that, and I don't think most authors do that. But that's what we had to do. You know, we had to read each other's writing as we were writing it, and this is so. I think AJ did this on purpose, but he'll probably deny it. When we set up the story and everything, he basically made me go first. So I had to write first. So I wrote my chapter and then I sent it, I didn't send it to him. We were using, a Google Doc. So I said to him, okay, I'm done. And then I was like, waiting and also like wondering if it was any good or what he was going to think of it. It was like going on a date, like, oh my gosh, is he going to like me? It's like that kind of a thing. And then, okay, I'm going to pull back the curtain so people really know. And then AJ, because he's AJ, was like giving me like line edits, and like comments and feedback. And I was like clutching my pearls. I remember saying to my husband, I was like, he's giving me feedback. And my husband, who is not a writer or like doesn't know that much about it, he was like, well, aren't you supposed to get feedback? I was like, not like this. He's being critical. And then I remember, this is me being like a little bit of a baby. I was like, oh, and so then he wrote his chapter and I was like, oh, you want feedback? You want to give feedback? I'll give you feedback. And then I realized, I was like, oh, this is how you have to do it. Like, you have to do that. You have to give each other feedback. You have to be honest and not be afraid of, hurting someone's feelings and things like that. And AJ is not afraid of hurting my feelings.
I'm direct.
He's direct.
I'll say that.
But but I think that it turned out that we were actually a really good fit, because I'm not like that. Like, I'm much more laid back, like go with the flow, like, kumbaya, let's all like make love and be friends. And so if we were both like that, it probably would have been a hot mess. So it was good to have AJ, who was like, and me, he kind of like kept me in line, and also like in a good way. He was the dom.
Yeah, I'll say, like all first times, it was a little painful, but ultimately pleasurable. And yeah, so, and I mean, everything Matt said is right. And I'll just say, like, I think the biggest challenge for me is that I've written a bunch of books before. So I've been writing for a number of years. So I had very much a process down. There's just a huge learning experience for me to like work with someone else to, kind of like not go through my typical process and to do it with someone else. It was a challenge for me, but like a really good learning experience as well. And I think just me learning, like, as we were reading the book, because at first I was like, oh, like something kind of feels off from like my like regular books, but then I realized, oh, this is not an A.J. Truman book. This is an A.J. Truman and Matt Wardell book. And like that's where the differences come in a good way. Like there's a lot that's in this book that I might not have thought to write in one of my books, and vice versa. And I think just like learning to like, ease up a little bit on the control and learning to like work with someone. I think it turned out well. It was a good experience. We've talked about writing more books in the future. So I mean, overall, I think it was a great experience. Just like I said, a good learning experience for me. Matt, like, to his credit, is just like a patient sweetheart. Like, there were times when like there was one time when I just like he wrote a chapter and then I said, oh, I just have a few like notes to make, and I completely rewrote it from scratch. And he was like, what the heck did you do? And I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like, that's I went too far. And so like as the book went on, I realized like, okay, like I like what he's bringing to this. Like, these are things like I wouldn't have thought to bring. And so really just learning to like work with someone to make, a different kind of book. So all in all, good times.
That is a great story.
It is like dating. I mean, it's like dating. It's like you're kind of getting to know the other person and how they work, and in a way, but it was also really, really enjoyable. I mean, AJ's, are we allowed? We're not supposed to say bad words, right?
You can say all the bad words you want. Go ahead.
Okay. AJ's fucking hilarious, right? Like, people know that. If they've read his books, they know that. And so I was like getting to read his jokes before anyone, and also see his joke process, which is and then even, which we got to this point, like I think at the beginning he probably wouldn't have let me do this, but like we got to the point where he would say a joke and I'd be like, that's funny, but you could do better, or like, and he would. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt like, like the puppeteer and he was my marionette. Like, I was like, give me another joke, make it funnier. And he would. And I had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, that's what precipitated the idea of, let's make this a series. Like, we didn't plan a series, we just planned a book. And then as we were writing the book, we were having so much fun, with the book and the characters and some of the side characters and each other and the process. We're like, we should do more.
Yeah. And like what was really fun for me too is like knowing that like someone was going to be reading my chapter like, very soon after. So when I was writing, I would think about, okay, I want to make Matt laugh. Like I want him to have like this reaction or that reaction. Like knowing I had like that person I was like writing for, it just made it so fun. I was like, okay, like there would be times when I thought of like good lines and like I would scribble them away, think, oh, Matt's gonna find this line so hilarious. I cannot wait to put it in. And then of course he like, and what I love is like when he would leave notes like in the chapter, aside from like, things to change or whatever, he'd be like, LOL or I cackled or like there's no just I cackled, which I loved.
A lot of cackling.
Yeah, if I just get a cackle out of him, like that's just what I was going for.
And then I was doing the same thing with the spice. I was like, okay, how much can I turn AJ on? Like how much is he gonna just be like, all over his husband? And then he'd be like, oh my God, this is so hot or whatever.
How did it come to like with the plotting? Like, do your processes mesh up and how you decide to, go forward, or how did that come together? Because I know with co-authors we've talked to before, somebody's a plotter, somebody's a pantser, somebody's like in an in-between state, and those can be some of the more difficult areas to get clicking correctly for a duo.
So I think because Matt, you seem like you do outline, but I think it takes you a while to kind of find what the story's about.
Totally.
Whereas like I think with me, like I said, but like having written books before, like I kind of know, okay, like these are the beats I want to hit. And I do like outlining. And even though as I've gone on, my outlines might get looser, like I do have like certain ideas of what I want to do in terms of plotting. And I really try to think about that, about like, okay, how are we raising the stakes? How are we building the tension? How are we building these big moments? So I think I kind of was taskmaster with that, especially because the big challenge with the book is that it's just these two guys in a cabin for the whole middle of the book. So it's just like these two people. And it's like, okay, how can we, we don't have side characters that we can really lean on. We don't really have a lot of other locations that we can go to for this. So how can we keep, building the tension, developing like, because it's also a second chance romance. So bringing in some of their history and, dealing with some of the conflict as they kind of deal with stuff from their relationship. How can we keep that building? So I tried to be mindful of that. Like when we would write, I went back and like, okay, like, in the next draft, like maybe let's try to like structure it this way. And like, I get like Matt's feedback and, Matt was really good with like pacing. He's like, okay, like we've kind of been in this section a little bit. Like, I think we need to like get to the next point already. So I think he was really good about figuring out, okay, like how can we keep the story moving?
At one point, I do remember, because this was, I think, at the beginning, like after just a few weeks, we were writing, and at one point, AJ sent me a message and he said, our characters have gone off the rails and they have like taken their own, and they kind of had like, we just kind of like, we weren't even thinking about the outline or the story. They were just like, being, and so that was, but he was right. And so then we just kind of had to like, push them back to the story.
Yeah, like I think there are a few times, especially in the second half of the book, when we're like, okay, we know where we want them to end up. Like, let's just take a quick brainstorming session and like think about, okay, what are like the next few chapters I can get them there. So like by that point, it's like a few chapters at a time, and like that happens with my own books as well, where like characters kind of go off the rails, and then you just figure out how to bring them back. Although I think what was funny that I do remember as we were writing, we're going through our chapters, and Matt like messages me like a few times. He's like, AJ, when are they gonna have sex? Like it's just too long without a sex scene. I need to write a sex scene. Like where when are they gonna have sex? Come on. He was like pleading with me.
And he was like, not yet. He was like totally edging me, and I was like, oh fuck. Yeah. And then finally, when it was time, he wrote. He was like, okay, now I want you to write the longest, most passionate, like love making that you can. And I was like, it was like what is it, like a relay race, and I was like, I got it. Like
he grabbed that baton. Did he ever?
Oh my goodness. So now I guess we should tell people all about what this book is if they have not picked it up yet. Tell everybody what Marshmallow Mountain is about, because we've been kind of teasing on it for a little bit.
Okay, so Marshmallow Mountain, it is about these two ex-boyfriends. Both of them are named Marshall. In the book, one is nicknamed Marsh, one is nicknamed Data. Marsh is like this, kind of like loose, sarcastic comedian, stand-up comedian. Data is this very uptight, like analytical, very number-focused accountant. They broke up. They had an abrupt breakup a few months prior to the start of the book, but they still have this cabin that they co-own in Maine, and they have to sell it. So they have to go up to the cabin for one weekend to clean it out, and it'll sever the last link between them, and the relationship will finally be over. But then there's a massive snowstorm, and they get snowed in. So now they're stuck in this cabin together. There's, as luck would have it, only one bed.
It's all they needed.
Yeah. And so it's a weekend them trying to reconcile what went wrong in their relationship, rekindling that flame, and saying, oh, is this for real? Or, will all this go away once we leave the mountain? I know, Matt, am I leaving anything out?
No, it's usually when I write a book, I'm the worst critic. I think my books are horrible. And it's only when when people start reading them and giving me feedback that I'm like, okay, well, maybe that is a good book. Maybe I did write a good book. But this book, probably because I didn't write it all by myself, I love this book, from the get-go. I don't need anyone to tell me that they love it. I love it. And that's never happened to me with any book that I've written before. And it's because I didn't write it by myself. It's the only thing I can think of. But I love this book. I think it's so funny because AJ's funny. And I think even, I'm funny. And I think
he is funny.
You pushed me to be funnier. I was like, okay, this isn't I gotta bring the joke, I gotta make this funny. This is AJ, he's hilarious. I can't just be a little funny. And it's sweet too, because that's kind of what I like to do. I like to mix that sweet and funny, and then also it's very spicy too.
And also what I loved about it is that when you write a book, it's there's part of the book that you're discovering for the first time as a reader, even though you're also writing it. There's scenes between Marsh and Data that are really sweet, these really tender scenes that Matt wrote. And I'm just wow, that's really good. And it was very touching. And usually because when you're writing a book and you're in it, you're not thinking about having that emotional response. But I was able to have that emotional response to these characters, since part of it I was reading as a reader.
Where did Marsh and Data come from? Because you talked about, wanting to do something with 2 plus-size characters, but then you gave them these very distinct opposite personalities. I personally would like to read their prequel, how they got together in the first place. But where did they come from?
I don't remember. Do you? I do remember this part. I remember it was my idea to give them the same name because,
yes,
number one, that happens with people who are of the same gender that date. I suppose it could happen with even because there's some gender neutral names or whatever. So it could be that people can date someone with the same name, but you never see that in books or TV or movies, or because it's complicated, which we learned once we made the leap to do it. We're oh shit, they have the same name, and so that's then AJ was we have to give them nicknames. And they have to be very different nicknames. But I don't remember how we thought of. I think part of them having the same name too was they have to be really different characters as well. The characters, and AJ's so funny, so he was I want to write someone who's really funny and tells lots of jokes.
we each took a character and we wrote up a backstory for them. Yeah. So and then we showed it to each other. So so I had Marsh, and I'm trying to think about why I thought of the comedy route. I'm not sure. I think because I've never written a book set in New York City, and I think in New York what's so cool is that there is this big comedy scene, whether it's stand-up comedy or improv or it's theater, all these things that I love, and it makes me wish I could live in New York City, because I would just go to all that all the time. So I think I was very interested in writing a character like that as well. Because I feel I don't really know if you see that a lot in romances, because stand-up comedy isn't really a romantic type of, occupation. I think, Matt, didn't you want to make Data an accountant because of my husband?
Yeah.
Or
So
I miss
well, and I was like, again, like something that's like a foil to a comic. And so we're like, okay, someone who's like, no shade to accountants, but like, like if you think about what an accountant does, it feels like something that's kind of, you know, anal, no pun intended. You're like crunching numbers and it's like very serious. And I do remember when we kind of came up with that, I was like, oh, I don't want to write that. Like, that doesn't sound like, that's not me. But then I ended up having so much, like, I always have the most fun when I write the characters who aren't like me. And we did have to ask AJ's husband for some things because, like, I don't know anything about accounting or being an accountant or money or anything like that. And so AJ like was like all the like accounting terms came from him.
Yeah. All those years of my husband talking to me about his work and me like trying to listen and trying to understand.
It paid off in this book.
Yeah. Like there's something in accounting called like a flux analysis, and it just makes me think of like a flux capacitor.
Totally.
Yeah, just you saying that, I'm like, oh, Back to the Future. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. And I love how you had that connection there. And then, yeah, AJ, your books are always have that thread of funny, and now you've written a comedian. I loved like the repeat of the thing you need to know about Data is ...
Yeah.
Just,
And like the way I came up with that is that starting a book is very scary. And so it's like I had that line. I was like, okay, that could be like a crutch because I don't know how to start these chapters. I'll try and use that. And like the idea came to me. And so it was like it helped me with like getting into writing because as writers know, it's like start the blank page is the hardest part. So it's like if you have like a sentence or something, then you can just go from there. So that helped me with writing this book. And then I was like, oh, look, I think it'd be a fun motif to have for, each of his chapters and have it weave into how it's part of his routine.
It feels very like something that a stand-up comic would say.
I think the $1 million question for the book is though, why Malamars?
That's a good, I'm gonna give that to Matt because Matt was on who came up with Malamars.
I came up with that. So it's my impression as I think about it and like talk to people, Malamars is like a very like New York City Jewish thing. It's like bagels, right? It's like or like black and white cookies is another one. Like there's certain things that are just very like New York City Jew coded, and Malamars is one of them. I'm not like the biggest Malamar fan. Like I'll eat a Malamar, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like obsessed with them or anything. But I learned a lot about them as I was researching them for the book. A lot of the stuff I learned, I didn't even go into the book. I just wanted to know about them. Like, did you know that you can only buy them certain months of the year? Because I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Because of the delicacy of the chocolate and how it will melt in transit. They only sell them, I think it's from like October through April. So like if you go to the store in the summertime, you can't buy them, which is true because I tried to get some for research and I couldn't find any. But I just, I like one thing that I love doing in my books, and I think I have found that readers love it, is if you have something that's like a special thing, a special item, I don't want to call it magical because we're not writing fantasy, but there's like something in the book that has some kind of, allure that's transcends the whole book. It goes, between the characters. Like, not to like call back my own books, but like Teacher of the Year, there's like that cherry chapstick. That's like a whole thing, like, right? Like people know all about the chapstick. So I wanted something that these two guys like bonded over that was really important to them. And I wanted it to be food because part of what AJ and I talked about with writing these bigger plus size characters was like we wanted to like celebrate food and eating. Like these aren't guys who are like dieting or like counting carbs or like, any of that stuff. So I wanted something that was like almost like a celebratory food. And so to me, that would be like a cookie, something sweet. And also because the book is called Marshmallow Mountain, I wanted to be a food that had like a marshmallow in it. And so that's how we got to Malamars.
Well, now I know why. You see, we're recording this in August and it's not coming out until November. So it's still summertime. And it helps me to understand why I'm looking for Malamars. Maybe I can't get them in California anyway.
No, you
But-
can.
But
Just
I
not
understand now why they're not on my shelves currently.
Check back, and I think it said, I think I read October. Starting in like October, they will ship them, and then they're on the shelf for like. And the reason that I wanted to know that was like our book takes place in the winter, so it works. But like otherwise, it would, there'd be somebody who would know that and say like they can't have Malamars, like all of that.
So yeah, by the time this airs, I'll have gone looking for Malamars again. See if I
You need to
can find one.
stitch in your reaction for like November right before this airs. Like, hi, this is like Jeff from the future, and I've had Malamars, I've tasted them. They're amazing. Okay, back.
Well,
to
I
the
know
show.
they're good because like I remember them from like, the past, but now I'm like, after I've read this whole book that has Malamars in it, I'm like, I'd kind of like to have a Malamar now, and couldn't do it. And at least now I know why. It's not a California thing, it's a time of year thing. I love the forced proximity here, and you really use that to such amazing effect. I mean, you talked about it being the middle of the book, and I feel like probably 80-ish% of the book is just them. It's like you've created this theater piece almost of like two actors on a stage, and here we go. Even taking away their ability to, contact the outside world for very realistic reasons. It didn't feel forced at all. But how was that for you as writers to be, I have to keep them here and they can't call their friends, they can't get to town, and you're just there? Did that cause an angst at all? Or was this like also maybe the best thing ever because you only had to think about them?
It was we definitely wrote ourselves into a corner. And as you see in the book, that there are like moments where like you get some self-reception, or like they are able to get to the general store. So there are those bits where they are able to like connect with the outside world here and there. But it definitely was a challenge that we didn't realize until we were like into the book, like, oh yeah, we've written these characters that are snowed in and they are snowed in together. But like I think a benefit was that it really allowed us to explore their relationship and really dig into what happened between them, like, and how these people who seem so different, like, how they are so similar, and how there are still issues that they are still working out, but they do still deeply care for each other. And it is that tension about like, when you break up with someone, it's like, I was with you for like, I think Data says in the book, like I was with you for like a third of my life. That's like substantial time. And how do you reconcile that with, okay, well, like, I still care about this person, but we're not together. But then also, I think what I loved about the setup as well is that it's a small cabin, and we really tried to make sure that like that there are moments in the book where you're like, okay, they're having to squeeze around each other, they're having to like, it's a tight space, and I think that can just add to like the forced proximity, and just adds like raising the sexual tension, because you're snowed in a cabin with your ex, and you keep accidentally touching them, and it just that can just really like amp up the unresolved sexual tension.
And I really liked, because it was Second Chance, you played into that amazing with them too, because they have all of this stuff of their life that they're revisiting because they're packing it up or throwing it away or whatever that is. How did you pick the elements to, we're going to examine this thing and this thing? Because like one of the things I liked a lot was when we got into the woodworking aspect and resurfacing those figures that Data had created.
How did we do? Well, one thing that is kind of funny, not really funny, but like maybe, I don't know. When we were writing this book, I was moving. Like I was packing and moving myself. Like I'm in a new place. I know it looks like the old place, but it's not. I'm in a new place. And so, packing is like, I don't know, it's like a weird thing. It 100% sucks. And unpacking also sucks. As I literally threw these books on the bookshelf. They're like, I will never be the person on, social media who has like color-coded shelves, or like like they're literally just like thrown up there. I'm like, whatever. But when you pack, it's like every time you look at something, you think about, where did I get this? What's the meaning behind this? What, like, and to some degree, at least for me, when I'm packing, like, do I want this? Like, is this something that I want to keep, or is this something I can get rid of? And so the idea of them packing really played into them revisiting their relationship, and like, you know, having like everything that they have to get, they got it together, you know, or most of the things. So I don't know how we picked all those like little items. I think
Well, and the thing is, I mean, what's so great is that everything in that cabin is connected to a memory. Like when you think
right.
about like when you live with someone, every little thing there's a memory attached to it about how you got it, or a conversation about it. Every little object, like in your house, 99.9% of them, it is connected to like some memory with like the person that you live with. So I think that was a really easy way to explore that. Like, oh, you know, books in the bookshelf, or picture frames, or woodworking, or an old notebook of jokes, or like, oh, those skis that you bought one time because you swore you're gonna be skiers and that just didn't work out, or those things data is into antiquing. So, oh, like this, you know, tea set that he's just had to have that, you know, they haven't used. So all these little things, it was able to just like really build that shorthand between the characters about like, you know, their whole relationship can just be, you know, summed up with all these little, you know, objects and memorabilia around the cabin.
So I love finding out about people's favorite scenes. And if you're game for this one, I'd love to know a favorite scene that the other person wrote that you like a lot.
That's easy for me. My favorite scene that AJ wrote, I think, I mean, it's the one that comes to my head first. So I'm just gonna say it, is the first scene with Marsh and Preeti, who's like his like stand-up comic BFF. And I laughed so hard at that scene because now you have not one, but you have two stand-up comics, like basically just barbing back and forth, you know, like just it was like a fencing match with jokes. And it was, I just thought it was hilarious. I mean, I think we did end up like tweaking some of the jokes, or like there were certain things, but generally speaking, it was so funny. And like the whole see you next Tuesday. I just love that scene. And I love that character too. Like I really, really love her. I'm hoping we can put her in another book because I just love her. And I think people are gonna love her.
And the scene of Matt's I love is that it's towards the end. It's Marshall and Data. They're having like a tender moment together over a pen. It's a scene with like the pen that Dada's mom gave him, and like he's talking about that. It was just like this like, sweet scene, like this really like, sweet like tender scene between the two of them, and it really just like I was like very touched by it. Like I really just think, oh my god, like you know these like these guys, like I really care about them, and I think that's just something that as well just makes you really care about these characters so much. You know, like whereas like I
I
tend to
think
be
in
like,
your
well, like
comment you said, I think in his comment he said, if I had a heart,
yeah.
it would be, I can't remember the rest of it, but that's how your comment started.
Yeah, because I tend in my books, even though my books they do have emotions, like they tend to be couched within jokes, and you know, sarcasm is my love language, and like Matt isn't afraid to go for those big emotions, and so it was very touching to read that scene between them. So like Data, you know, have his like walls come down a little bit, and you know, reveal the side of himself that he hadn't shown to Marsh. I think that was a fun thing also with the characters where these guys have known each other for a number of years. They were together for a number of years, but there are still like secrets and are still like, you know, sides of them like they were too afraid to show the other person. And like this is like the weekend where like they're finally really bearing everything.
So you didn't intend for this to be a series, but now it's a series. Can you tease us anything about what's going to be coming next in Big Boys Small Spaces?
We have the second book already planned.
Oh,
So Bryce, who is one of the side characters in this book, he lives in the building that Marsh and Data live in New York City. He's also a bigger guy, and he's a dancer. He's like trying to make it as, you know, like on Broadway as a dancer, but not having a lot of luck. That will be he will be one of the main characters in the second book, and I don't know, how much more should I say about it? Like, we have the whole book.
Everything that you want to
Blurb.
say.
Yeah, so again, like the theme of the series is like, two guys in a more confined space. So in this one, it's like him and a new roommate. A guy moves in and they're forced to be roommates together, and it's a small one-bedroom apartment. It's like them and then Bryce's adorable dog, who you will fall in love with.
He's in this book too. He's in Marshmallow
Yeah,
Mountain, the Burmese mountain dog.
yeah. So it's like the two of them having to make it work in this small New York City apartment. And again, like, Bryce is a dancer. The other character, he is more of like the stuffy kind of academic type. So it's like very like opposites attract as well. And yeah, it's about how they learn to live together, and then that, turns into something more romantic and spicier. And like what we're thinking too, like, because there's a lot of like New York set rom-coms that we just love, and like that energy of like a Nora Ephron, or like those types of things. So like I think that's something that we're really trying to have come through in this book, like Nora Ephron and Neil Simon, like that kind of energy. So really, we want to be like a very like New Yorky type book.
Awesome. I look forward to that. Any thoughts on when it might come out?
Fall 2025. I think we're targeting October.
Yeah, a year from like
Yeah,
this one coming out.
Cool.
yeah,
Something to look forward to already for 2025.
yeah.
Speaking of upcoming projects, what are both of you working on solo these days that we should also be looking for, as we move into the end of this year and into next?
I will let Matt go first because he has the more upcoming release.
So my next solo book is the final book in my Teachers in Love series, which is called Husband of the Year, which is kind of like a sequel to Teacher of the Year, but also it's like the bow on the end of the whole series. And it's coming out in February of next year, unless like something changes, which I don't think it will, but you never know, like things can happen. That's the plan for February of next year. I'm actually working on it like as we speak. I'm deep in revisions. So it's cute, it's Marvin and Olin getting married, but then I bring everybody back. Sheldon, who was in Mistletoe, ends up being the wedding planner.
Oh,
And Vincent and Ken, and like all the folks come back. And it's been kind of emotional for me to write this book. And I don't know if it's because I'm so into these characters, I know them so well, or also because it's the end of the series. And so I'm feeling like all kinds of feelings about it. And also like a lot of emotional things are happening in the book. Like people are getting married and things like that. So I've been crying a lot, which I know AJ's like rolls his eyes. He's like, oh my God, fucking feelings.
I know. I'm like Sarah Michelle Gellar in Cruel Intentions. Oh, did the little book make you cry?
Also, can I just say, because people should know this, one of the things that I call AJ when we were writing is a joke assassin. Because sometimes he would write a joke and I'd be like, it's like not quite landing. And then what he would literally do is be like, here's 3 more. Like, which one's the funniest? And so then I'm like, sometimes they were all funny. And it was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know now. It's like, I have to pick. They're all funny. But he can just like, boom, he can just give you joke after joke after joke after joke. Sometimes the pop culture references get a little like, I'm like, AJ, I don't know what that is. And I asked like 5 people and none of them know what it is either. So because he's like, he knows so much about like obscure pop culture.
My brain is broken, basically. It's a TLDR of that.
The
Although
pop
it's
culture,
funny.
I mean, I knew most of that had to come from AJ, just from what I know about his books and from our first conversation on the show. But all of them was like, yes, yes, yes. I got all of them that were in the book.
I wrote some too, though. I wrote some of them.
I will say, like, well, one of like things that made me really like Matt in the beginning is when I first met him and I started reading Teacher of the Year. Within I think 5 pages of Teacher of the Year, he said he makes a reference to a Silkwood shower. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, like I like him. You can stay.
And we also, the other thing, I know I'm totally like going back to an old question. The other thing that we did while we were writing that was so fun is like we're two gay dudes, right? And we would be like, how gay can we make this? Like the references, like we don't want, like this isn't like no shade to them because they're very popular and they sell more books than we do, but like this isn't a hockey book, right? Like this is like two like really gay guys. So like how gay can we make it? So we're like, let's put like a Into the Woods reference, and like just the references just got gayer and gayer and gayer. And then we would like comment on the other person's like how gay it was. So but it was fun. Anyway, AJ, what are you working on?
So I'm working on a new spin-off series. So for my main books, they're all set in this fictional town called Sarahwood. There's a series about single dads, a series about the teachers at the high school there. This book, it's set in that world. It's a new group of guys, but connected to the ones from the other series, so they may pop in. I don't want to give too much away because I'm still in the first draft mode, as things can change so much. I don't want to commit to into the podcast history or podcast of record. Like I don't want to commit too much to what it's about, but I will say it is set in the Sour World universe. It's 40-something guys. So if you like the Single Dads Club and you like the found family aspect of that, and like that they're a little bit older, a little more bearish, then I think you will enjoy this. So hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, be able to speak more about it. But I'm hoping that this first book will come out sometime in 2025 for the new series as well.
Fantastic. As we wrap it up, we got to get some recommendations from you both. What are you reading or watching right now that you think our listeners should be checking out?
I'm going to punt this to Matt first while I think about this. Even though I knew this question was coming,
I know,
and my
too.
brain just goes blank whenever people ask for recommendations.
I know. So my thing is like I don't read much when I'm in the process of like writing because it just I will do like audiobooks usually, but like I can't look at words when I'm looking at words all the time. Like it's just too much. I will say the book that I have I haven't read it though, so it's not really a recommendation, but I know I'm gonna love it, is Kay Sterling's new book, Jonathan's book. I can't think of the name of the title, but it's the last book in that nanny series that she has.
The nanny books are so good.
And I love all of those books. So like I know I'm gonna love this book and I love her. And what I'm watching, which will be a shock to no one, is Drag Race. I just finished All-Star, the latest All-Stars, but this week Global All-Stars starts and one Miss Alyssa Edwards is on. And I am so excited to have her back on my television because I love me some Alyssa Edwards and her back rolls. Back rolls. You don't know that because you don't watch Drag Race.
I don't.
For
either.
all your pop culture. What?
I know.
Gosh.
I will say I'm not anti-Drag Race. I just like never seen it.
Into it. Maybe I'll make you watch it when you come. AJ's coming to visit. Actually, by the time this podcast is out, he'll have already been here.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hate each other.
I doubt
that. Could be. Okay. So as for what I'm reading, so I tend to like read a lot of different genres. I think it just gives me like inspiration and whatnot. So a book that I read this year that I just loved was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. So it's like a romance, but like a romance, a platonic romance, kind of appropriate for a co-writing relationship. It's about these two people who they meet in college and they start like developing video games together, and it follows them through like the 90s and the 2000s as like their friendship goes through ups and downs as their like video game business goes through ups and downs with each release. And it's just like this beautiful ode to friendship that is glorious and just like such a well-written book. So I love that. I'm trying to think what else I'm reading that I like. I'm dipping my toe into Emily Henry. I know I sound like the most basic person, but I was like, I started reading Happy Place as well, and that is fantastic. I'm like very happy that like she lives up to all the hype. She is a fantastic writer. So like that's also on my Kindle as well. And then I'd go through like different books at the same time. I'm also reading Camp Damascus by Chuck Dingle, which is interesting. It's like a horror type thriller. So that's interesting to read as well. And then for TV, it's like like most people, like you scroll through like these apps for like 15 minutes, then you just wind up watching like reruns of your favorite show. That's like what happens to me. So I think I'm probably this time I'm probably rewatching Frasier for like the third time.
Also, there's an Emily Henry joke in our book.
Yes.
We're not like making fun of her. There's like it's like people. It's like not anything. Like we love Emily Henry, but it's like it's so when I say it's a joke, it's more like a nod to her.
So if nothing in this podcast convinced you to read Marshmallow Mountain, no, you have to read it because there's an Henry reference.
And you need to find it. And it's cute. And it wasn't
Yeah.
originally an Emily Henry reference. It was like it was a different author. And I think it was me. I was like, we need this to be like a romance author, like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to our readers. So I was like, well, who's a romance author that like everybody has heard of? So we made it Emily Henry.
Awesome. How can people keep up with you online to know how everything is coming together for your solo projects, on the new book, all those various things?
So I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook group. So it's like The Outsiders is the name of it. You can find me on Instagram at AJ Truman _author. I'm currently on TikTok, although by November, who knows if I'll still be on there. And that's also AJ Truman _author.
And I'm all the same places. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I think my Instagram is Wardell author. I think I don't even know. I think that's what it is. But also, if you just go to my website mawardell.com, it has all the places you can find me. I have a Facebook group too. I'm trying to get people to join my Facebook group. It's so much fun. I forget what it's called.
Wardell's Warriors.
Because you have to have a cute name like that.
Well, I'm so happy that you two came to talk about Marshmallow Mountain. I really can't wait to read more in that series because this is so awesome. And just thank you both for coming on and thank you both so much for coming and telling us about this. And hopefully by now a lot of people have read it because it's been out for a little bit, but if they haven't, they need to go pick it up because we're getting into the winter time. It's perfect for this book. So thank you both so much and wish you all the success with it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
We're getting into the winter time. It's perfect for this book. So thank you both so much and wish you all the success with it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
This episode's transcript has been brought to you by our community on Patreon. If you'd like to read the conversation for yourself, head on over to the show notes page for this episode at biggayfictionpodcast.com.
And thanks so much to Matt and AJ for coming onto the show and talking to us about Marshmallow Mountain. I really hope you all go grab this book. It is so sweet and so funny and so spicy. It's the perfect book to curl up with this winter. Hey, ChatGPT, what did you think of the discussion of Marshmallow Mountain?
From your interview with Matt and AJ, several things stood out regarding their first-time collaboration on Marshmallow Mountain. First was the origins of their collaboration, as they met through social media and developed a friendship through mutual respect for each other's work in gay romance. AJ was initially hesitant about co-writing due to concerns over potential conflicts and the time commitment, but Matt's enthusiasm and the natural chemistry between them ultimately won him over. Their collaboration began with a desire to write a book featuring 2 plus-size protagonists, a representation they both felt was underexplored in romance novels. They wanted to create something that was a unique twist for the genre. They also had to balance their different styles. Matt described himself as more easygoing and AJ as the more direct, structured partner. Their opposing strengths complemented each other. Matt tended to handle pacing, while AJ focused on structure and maintaining narrative tension. Meanwhile, both acknowledged the intimacy of co-writing, with Matt humorously recounting how AJ's feedback initially made him nervous. They had to navigate writing for each other in real time, providing feedback directly and learning to embrace each other's strengths. Their work also included fun dynamics, such as the creation of 2 characters named Marshall, known as Marsh and Data, whose clashing personalities drive the book's humor and tension. Matt credited AJ's knack for delivering punchlines, while AJ praised Matt's emotional depth in tender moments. Finally, they teased a second book in the Big Boys Small Spaces series, focusing on Bryce, a dancer, and a new roommate, continuing their theme of 2 characters confined to a small space. The conversation underscored their complementary partnership, humor, and shared passion for exploring new themes in gay romance.
I really like how chat focused in on how Matt and AJ wrote together and their process. That to me is one of my favorite parts when I'm talking to collaborators, especially first-time collaborators, and how they make their differing processes and styles all mesh together into a great product.
All right, I think that'll do it for now. Coming up next on Monday, November 18th, we're off to the airport with author Jeffrey Davenport.
Jeffrey's latest book is Meet Me in the Sky, and it gives us a terrific forced proximity romance set at John F. Kennedy Airport. It's an unlikely place for a romance, and frankly, not somewhere I'd want to be long enough to have a forced proximity romance. But I tell you, it makes for one great story, and we're going to talk all about it next episode.
On behalf of Jeff and myself, we want to thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you'll join us again soon for more discussions about the kinds of stories we all love, the big gay fiction kind. Until then, keep turning those pages and keep reading. Big Gay Fiction Podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more shows you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. Original theme music by Daryl Banner.